The meter height for a dwelling unit outdoor area can vary depending on building codes and regulations in different jurisdictions. A common standard dictates a minimum ceiling height of 2.4 meters, which is approximately 7 feet 10 inches, for habitable outdoor spaces. Habitable outdoor spaces include areas such as balconies, terraces, and patios. This specified height, 2.4 meters or 7 feet 10 inches, provides sufficient headroom. Adequate headroom ensures that occupants can move around comfortably within the outdoor space and fully enjoy its intended purpose. The purpose of specifying minimum height standards is primarily to enhance usability and prevent discomfort or safety hazards that could arise from excessively low ceilings. For non-habitable outdoor areas, the regulations may differ slightly. Non-habitable areas often include spaces such as storage rooms or mechanical equipment areas. In such spaces, the ceiling height may be lower than the standard 2.4 meters required for habitable areas. However, even in non-habitable areas, the ceiling height must be sufficiently high. It must be high enough to allow for proper maintenance of equipment or stored items, as well as provide adequate access for necessary inspections and repairs. It is crucial to consult the specific building codes and regulations applicable to your local jurisdiction. These codes and regulations provide precise requirements for ceiling heights in both habitable and non-habitable outdoor areas. Adhering to these local requirements is essential to ensure full compliance with safety standards and legal mandates. Compliance is not merely a matter of formality, it is a critical aspect of ensuring the safety and functionality of the dwelling unit. By understanding and following these guidelines, builders, designers, and homeowners can create outdoor spaces that are both aesthetically pleasing and structurally sound, providing a safe and comfortable environment for all occupants. In summary, the meter height for outdoor dwelling units is governed by a set of standards intended to promote safety, usability, and regulatory compliance. Always refer to local building codes for exact specifications. Firstly, it is important to understand what constitutes a habitable outdoor space. These are areas designed for regular use and enjoyment, such as balconies, patios, and terraces. Secondly, non-habitable spaces serve more utilitarian purposes, such as storage or housing mechanical equipment. Thirdly, building codes typically specify minimum ceiling heights for both types of spaces. These heights ensure adequate headroom and safe access. Fourthly, it is critical to consult local regulations. Building codes vary by jurisdiction, so compliance requires specific knowledge of local requirements. Fifthly, adhere to these guidelines to maintain safety and legal compliance. Failing to comply can result in costly corrections and potential safety hazards. The distinction between habitable and non-habitable spaces is essential because it directly influences the required ceiling height. Habitable spaces, designed for frequent use, necessitate higher ceilings to enhance comfort and usability. Non-habitable spaces, on the other hand, can sometimes have lower ceilings, provided they still allow for necessary maintenance and access. Building codes outline these distinctions clearly, providing specific measurements that must be adhered to during construction or renovation. When designing or modifying outdoor spaces, always prioritize reviewing the local building codes. These codes are not static and may be updated periodically to reflect new safety standards or construction practices. Staying informed about the latest revisions is crucial for ensuring ongoing compliance. Moreover, consider consulting with a qualified building inspector or structural engineer. These professionals can provide expert guidance on interpreting and applying building codes, helping to avoid potential pitfalls and ensure the project meets all necessary requirements. In addition to ceiling height, building codes often address other relevant factors, such as structural integrity, ventilation, and accessibility. A comprehensive understanding of these aspects is vital for creating safe and functional outdoor spaces. For example, proper ventilation can prevent the buildup of moisture and pollutants, while ensuring accessibility can accommodate individuals with disabilities. Therefore, compliance is not just about meeting the minimum ceiling height requirement, it involves adhering to a broader set of standards that collectively contribute to the overall safety and usability of the outdoor dwelling unit. Remember that the goal is to create a space that not only meets regulatory requirements but also provides a comfortable and safe environment for its occupants. By paying close attention to all aspects of building codes and seeking expert guidance when needed, it is possible to achieve this balance and ensure a successful outcome. Ensuring compliance with building codes and regulations regarding meter height in outdoor dwelling units is paramount for several reasons. Firstly, compliance safeguards the safety and well-being of occupants. Adequate meter height, typically a minimum of 2.4 meters or 7 feet 10 inches for habitable spaces like balconies, terraces, and patios, ensures sufficient headroom. Sufficient headroom prevents accidental bumps, trips, and falls, which can lead to injuries. Secondly, adherence to building codes ensures structural integrity. These codes are designed to guarantee that the construction meets specific standards, minimizing the risk of structural failures or collapses. Structural integrity is especially crucial in outdoor areas exposed to weather elements like wind, rain, and snow. Thirdly, compliance ensures regulatory adherence. Building codes are legally mandated, and failure to comply can result in fines, legal action, or the forced demolition of non-compliant structures. Regulatory adherence protects property owners from potential legal and financial liabilities. Fourthly, compliance ensures property value is maintained. Structures that meet building codes are generally more appealing to potential buyers and tenants. Maintaining property value is a significant long-term investment. Fifthly, compliance ensures habitability and usability. Adequate meter height enhances the comfort and functionality of outdoor spaces. Habitability and usability encourage occupants to utilize and enjoy these areas, improving their overall quality of life. Sixthly, compliance ensures accessibility. Building codes often include provisions for accessibility, making outdoor spaces usable by individuals with disabilities. Accessibility promotes inclusivity and ensures that all residents can fully enjoy their living environments. Seventhly, compliance prevents future complications. Addressing potential issues during the construction or renovation phase is far more cost-effective than rectifying them later. Preventing future complications saves time, money, and stress. Eighthly, compliance promotes sustainability. Modern building codes often incorporate sustainable building practices such as energy efficiency and water conservation. Sustainability contributes to environmental conservation and reduces operating costs. Ninthly, compliance enhances community aesthetics. Adhering to building codes ensures that structures blend harmoniously with the surrounding environment. Community aesthetics enhance the overall appearance and appeal of neighborhoods. Lastly, compliance ensures long-term durability. Buildings that meet code requirements are typically more durable and resistant to wear and tear. Long-term durability reduces the need for frequent repairs and extends the lifespan of the structure. In summary, ensuring compliance with meter height regulations in outdoor dwelling units is not merely a formality but a vital aspect of ensuring safety, structural integrity, regulatory adherence, property value, habitability, accessibility, preventing future complications, promoting sustainability, enhancing community aesthetics, and ensuring long-term durability. Always prioritize consulting local building codes and regulations to guarantee full compliance and create outdoor spaces that are safe, functional, and aesthetically pleasing. When examining building codes related to outdoor dwelling units, several key aspects need careful attention. These details can significantly impact the design, construction, and usability of the space. Firstly, understand the definition of habitable space versus non-habitable space. Habitable spaces are areas designed for regular human occupancy, such as balconies or patios used for relaxation and entertainment. Non-habitable spaces serve primarily utilitarian functions, like storage or housing mechanical equipment. Secondly, be aware of specific height requirements. Building codes typically specify minimum ceiling heights for both habitable and non-habitable spaces, often measured in meters or feet. Ensure compliance with these measurements during construction or renovation. Thirdly, examine regulations regarding ventilation. Adequate ventilation is crucial to prevent the buildup of moisture, mold, and other pollutants. Codes may specify minimum ventilation rates or requirements for natural or mechanical ventilation systems. Fourthly, understand structural load requirements. Outdoor structures must be able to withstand various loads, including wind, snow, and the weight of occupants and furniture. Consult structural engineers to ensure the design meets these requirements. Fifthly, review safety standards. Codes often include specific safety requirements, such as guardrail heights and slip-resistant surfaces, to prevent accidents and injuries. Adhere to these standards to ensure the safety of occupants. Sixthly, check accessibility requirements. Building codes may mandate accessibility features for outdoor spaces, such as ramps or elevators, to accommodate individuals with disabilities. Consider these requirements during the design phase. Seventhly, investigate fire safety regulations. Depending on the proximity to other buildings or structures, fire safety regulations may apply to outdoor dwelling units. These regulations could include requirements for fire-resistant materials or sprinkler systems. Eighthly, understand zoning regulations. Zoning laws dictate how land can be used and may affect the size, location, and type of outdoor structures allowed on a property. Ensure compliance with zoning regulations before commencing construction. Ninthly, review permit requirements. Obtaining the necessary permits is essential before starting any construction or renovation project. Contact local building authorities to determine which permits are required and follow the application process. Lastly, be aware of inspection procedures. Building inspectors will assess the construction to ensure compliance with codes and regulations. Schedule inspections at the appropriate stages of the project and address any deficiencies promptly. In summary, thorough examination of building codes related to outdoor dwelling units involves understanding the definitions of habitable and non-habitable spaces, adhering to specific height requirements, ensuring adequate ventilation, understanding structural load requirements, reviewing safety standards, checking accessibility requirements, investigating fire safety regulations, understanding zoning regulations, reviewing permit requirements, and being aware of inspection procedures. By paying close attention to these details, it is possible to create outdoor spaces that are safe, functional, and compliant with all applicable regulations. When considering the implications of meter height regulations on outdoor dwelling units, it is essential to recognize the practical effects on various aspects of construction and design. The decisions made during the planning and construction phases must align with these regulations to ensure compliance and create functional spaces. Firstly, in architectural design, meter height regulations dictate the vertical dimensions of outdoor spaces, influencing the overall design aesthetic and functionality. Architects must integrate these requirements into their plans to create spaces that are both visually appealing and compliant with building codes. Secondly, in structural engineering, meter height regulations affect structural calculations and material selection. Engineers must ensure that the structure can safely support the intended loads while adhering to height restrictions. Thirdly, in construction planning, contractors must account for meter height regulations when scheduling and sequencing construction activities. Proper planning ensures that the finished structure meets the required dimensions and specifications. Fourthly, in material selection, meter height regulations may influence the choice of building materials. For example, the use of thicker or more durable materials may be necessary to meet structural requirements imposed by height restrictions. Fifthly, in cost management, adhering to meter height regulations can impact project costs. Compliance may require additional materials, labor, or design modifications which must be factored into the budget. Sixthly, in safety compliance, meter height regulations contribute to overall safety by ensuring adequate headroom and preventing potential hazards. Contractors must implement safety measures to protect workers and occupants during construction. Seventhly, in regulatory approvals, compliance with meter height regulations is essential for obtaining building permits and regulatory approvals. Failure to comply can result in delays, fines, or the rejection of the project. Eighthly, in property valuation, meter height regulations can affect the value of the property. Compliant structures are generally more appealing to buyers and tenants, increasing the property's market value. Ninthly, in long-term maintenance, compliance with meter height regulations reduces the risk of future maintenance issues. Properly designed and constructed structures are less likely to require costly repairs or modifications. Lastly, in user experience, meter height regulations directly impact the comfort and usability of outdoor spaces. Adequate headroom and proper ventilation enhance the overall user experience, making the space more enjoyable and functional. In summary, the implications of meter height regulations on outdoor dwelling units are multifaceted, affecting architectural design, structural engineering, construction planning, material selection, cost management, safety compliance, regulatory approvals, property evaluation, long-term maintenance, and user experience. By considering these implications, builders, designers, and property owners can ensure compliance with regulations and create outdoor spaces that are safe, functional, and aesthetically pleasing. When discussing the importance of consulting local building codes for meter height regulations, several key factors underscore why this step is indispensable. These factors highlight the variability in codes, the necessity for legal compliance, and the overall benefits of adhering to established standards. Firstly, local variations exist in building codes. Meter height regulations can differ significantly from one jurisdiction to another. These variations reflect local climate conditions, construction practices, and community priorities. Consulting local codes ensures that projects comply with the specific requirements of the area. Secondly, legal compliance is mandatory. Building codes are legally enforceable, and failure to comply can result in penalties, fines, or legal action. Consulting local codes ensures that projects adhere to all applicable laws and regulations. Thirdly, safety standards are upheld by consulting local building codes. Meter height regulations are designed to ensure the safety of occupants by providing adequate headroom and preventing potential hazards. Consulting local codes helps to maintain these safety standards. Fourthly, structural integrity is ensured because local building codes often include provisions for structural integrity, ensuring that structures are capable of withstanding environmental loads and stresses. Consulting local codes ensures that projects meet these structural requirements. Fifthly, risk mitigation can be achieved by consulting local building codes because compliance minimizes the risk of construction defects, safety hazards, and legal liabilities. Consulting local codes helps to mitigate these risks. Sixthly, property value can be maintained as adherence to local building codes enhances the value of the property. Compliant structures are generally more appealing to buyers and tenants. Consulting local codes helps to maintain property value. Seventhly, insurance coverage may require a building to comply with local codes to be insured. Insurance companies may deny coverage for structures that do not meet code requirements. Consulting local codes ensures that the property is eligible for insurance coverage. Eighthly, community standards are upheld because local building codes reflect community values and standards. Consulting local codes helps to maintain the aesthetic appeal and functionality of the neighborhood. Ninthly, professional responsibility necessitates consulting local building codes. Architects, engineers, and contractors have a professional responsibility to ensure that their projects comply with all applicable codes and regulations. Consulting local codes demonstrates this commitment to professional excellence. Lastly, long-term benefits arise because compliance with local building codes promotes long-term sustainability and durability. Properly designed and constructed structures are less likely to require costly repairs or modifications. Consulting local codes ensures long-term benefit. In summary, consulting local building codes for meter height regulations is of paramount importance due to local variations in codes, the necessity for legal compliance, the upholding of safety standards, the ensuring of structural integrity, risk mitigation, property value maintenance, insurance coverage eligibility, the upholding of community standards, professional responsibility, and long-term benefits. By consulting local codes, builders, designers, and property owners can ensure that their projects are safe, compliant, and sustainable. When examining the various types of outdoor spaces in dwelling units and their corresponding meter height requirements, it's important to differentiate between their uses and the associated regulatory guidelines. The distinctions help ensure that each space is safe, functional, and compliant with local building codes. Firstly, balconies are defined as elevated platforms projecting from the wall of a building, typically accessed from an interior room. Meter height requirements for balconies generally adhere to the standard for habitable spaces, ensuring adequate headroom and safety. Secondly, patios are defined as ground-level outdoor spaces, often paved or decked, and typically used for recreation or dining. Meter height requirements for patios may differ slightly from those of balconies, depending on whether the patio is covered or enclosed. Thirdly, terraces are defined as raised, level platforms or paved areas adjacent to a building, often located on a roof or upper floor. Meter height requirements for terraces tend to be similar to those of balconies, ensuring sufficient headroom and structural integrity. Fourthly, covered porches are defined as roof structures attached to a building, providing shelter and outdoor living space. Meter height requirements for covered porches typically follow the standards for habitable spaces, ensuring adequate ventilation and safety. Fifthly, unenclosed decks are defined as open, uncovered platforms typically made of wood or composite materials. Meter height requirements for unenclosed decks may be less stringent than those for covered spaces, depending on local building codes. Sixthly, storage areas are defined as spaces designated for storing tools, equipment, or other items. Meter height requirements for storage areas may be lower than those for habitable spaces, as long as they allow for proper access and maintenance. Seventhly, mechanical equipment areas are defined as spaces housing HVAC systems, generators, or other mechanical equipment. Meter height requirements for mechanical equipment areas must allow for safe access, maintenance, and ventilation of the equipment. Eighthly, outdoor kitchens are defined as outdoor spaces equipped with cooking appliances, sinks, and countertops. Meter height requirements for outdoor kitchens typically adhere to the standards for habitable spaces, ensuring adequate ventilation and safety for cooking activities. Ninthly, recreational areas are defined as spaces designed for outdoor recreation, such as swimming pools, sports courts, or playgrounds. Meter height requirements for recreational areas may vary depending on the specific activities and equipment involved. Lastly, garden areas are defined as spaces dedicated to gardening, landscaping, or growing plants. Meter height requirements for garden areas are generally less stringent, focusing on accessibility and functionality for gardening activities. In summary, the various types of outdoor spaces and dwelling units, including balconies, patios, terraces, covered porches, unenclosed decks, storage areas, mechanical equipment areas, outdoor kitchens, recreational areas, and garden areas, have different uses and associated meter height requirements. Adhering to these requirements is crucial for ensuring the safety, functionality, and compliance of each space with local building codes. Always consult local regulations for specific guidelines and standards. Considering accessibility requirements in relation to meter height regulations for outdoor dwelling units is essential for ensuring inclusivity and usability for all residents, including those with disabilities. Accessibility standards are often incorporated into building codes to promote equal access and prevent discrimination. Firstly, ramps are defined as inclined surfaces used to provide access to elevated areas for individuals using wheelchairs or other mobility devices. Meter height requirements for ramps must comply with accessibility standards, ensuring a gradual slope and adequate headroom. Secondly, elevators are defined as vertical transportation devices used to provide access to different levels of a building for individuals with mobility impairments. Meter height requirements for elevators must adhere to accessibility standards, ensuring sufficient space and ease of use. Thirdly, accessible pathways are defined as clear and unobstructed routes providing access to outdoor spaces for individuals with disabilities. Meter height requirements for accessible pathways must ensure a level surface and adequate width for wheelchair maneuverability. Fourthly, accessible entrances are defined as doorways or entry points designed to be easily used by individuals with disabilities. Meter height requirements for accessible entrances must comply with accessibility standards, ensuring a threshold-free entrance and adequate door width. Fifthly, accessible seating areas are defined as outdoor seating areas designed to accommodate individuals using wheelchairs or other mobility devices. Meter height requirements for accessible seating areas must ensure adequate space and clear pathways to seating options. Sixthly, accessible restrooms are defined as outdoor restroom facilities designed to be used by individuals with disabilities. Meter height requirements for accessible restrooms must comply with accessibility standards, ensuring sufficient space, grab bars, and accessible fixtures. Seventhly, accessible recreational facilities are defined as outdoor recreational facilities designed to be used by individuals with disabilities. Meter height requirements for accessible recreational facilities must ensure equal access and usability for all individuals. Eighthly, accessible signage is defined as clear and visible signs providing information and direction for individuals with disabilities. Meter height requirements for accessible signage must comply with accessibility standards, ensuring appropriate height, font size, and contrast. Ninthly, accessible parking spaces are defined as parking spaces designated for individuals with disabilities. Meter height requirements for accessible parking spaces must comply with accessibility standards, ensuring adequate space and access to accessible pathways. Lastly, accessible emergency exits are defined as emergency exits designed to be easily used by individuals with disabilities. Meter height requirements for accessible emergency exits must comply with accessibility standards, ensuring clear pathways and safe evacuation routes. In summary, considering accessibility requirements in relation to meter height regulations for outdoor dwelling units is critical for ensuring inclusivity and usability for all residents. Accessibility standards must be integrated into the design and construction of ramps, elevators, accessible pathways, accessible entrances, accessible seating areas, accessible restrooms, accessible recreational facilities, accessible signage, accessible parking spaces, and accessible emergency exit. Always consult local building codes and accessibility guidelines to ensure full compliance and create outdoor spaces that are accessible to all. When discussing the role of safety in meter height regulations for outdoor dwelling units, it's crucial to consider the various aspects that contribute to a safe and secure environment. Safety regulations aim to minimize risks and protect occupants from potential hazards. Firstly, adequate headroom is crucial for preventing accidental bumps, trips, and falls. Meter height regulations ensure sufficient headroom in outdoor spaces, reducing the risk of head injuries and other accidents. Secondly, proper ventilation is essential for maintaining air quality and preventing the buildup of harmful gases or fumes. Meter height regulations, combined with ventilation requirements, ensure adequate airflow in outdoor spaces. Thirdly, structural stability is essential for preventing collapses or structural failures. Meter height regulations, along with structural design requirements, ensure that outdoor structures are capable of withstanding environmental loads and stresses. Fourthly, guardrails and barriers are necessary for preventing falls from elevated surfaces. Meter height regulations often specify minimum heights and structural requirements for guardrails and barriers in balconies, terraces, and other elevated areas. Fifthly, slip-resistant surfaces are essential for preventing slips and falls, especially in wet or icy conditions. Meter height regulations may require the use of slip-resistant materials in outdoor spaces to enhance safety. Sixthly, adequate lighting is necessary for providing visibility and preventing accidents at night or in low light conditions. Meter height regulations may include requirements for outdoor lighting to ensure safe navigation and visibility. Seventhly, fire safety measures are essential for protecting occupants and preventing the spread of fire. Meter height regulations may include requirements for fire-resistant materials, sprinkler systems, and emergency exits in outdoor spaces. Eighthly, electrical safety is essential for preventing electrical shocks or fires. Meter height regulations must comply with electrical codes, ensuring that electrical wiring and equipment are properly installed and grounded. Ninthly, emergency access must be ensured for providing quick and easy access for emergency personnel in case of accidents or other emergencies. Meter height regulations must not obstruct emergency access routes or interfere with emergency response efforts. Lastly, compliance with safety standards is essential for creating a safe and secure environment for all occupants. Meter height regulations, along with other safety regulations, help to minimize risks and protect occupants from potential hazards. In summary, the role of safety in meter height regulations for outdoor dwelling units is paramount. Safety regulations address various aspects, including adequate headroom, proper ventilation, structural stability, guardrails and barriers, slip-resistant surfaces, adequate lighting, fire safety measures, electrical safety, emergency access, and compliance with safety standards. By adhering to these regulations, builders, designers, and property owners can create outdoor spaces that are safe, secure, and compliant with all applicable codes and standards. When addressing common misconceptions about meter height regulations in outdoor dwelling units, it is important to clarify misunderstandings and provide accurate information. Misconceptions can lead to non-compliance and potential safety hazards. Firstly, one common misconception is that meter height regulations are the same for all outdoor spaces. In reality, meter height requirements can vary depending on the type of space, its intended use, and local building codes. Balconies, patios, terraces, and other outdoor spaces may have different height requirements based on their specific characteristics. Secondly, another misconception is that meter height regulations only apply to new construction. In fact, meter height regulations can also apply to renovations, additions, and alterations to existing structures. Any modifications to outdoor spaces must comply with current building codes, regardless of when the original structure was built. Thirdly, a third misconception is that meter height regulations are solely about aesthetics. Meter height regulations serve multiple purposes, including ensuring adequate headroom, proper ventilation, structural stability, and safety. While aesthetics may be a consideration, the primary focus is on creating functional and safe outdoor spaces. Fourthly, some believe that meter height regulations are optional or can be waived. In reality, meter height regulations are legally enforceable and must be followed by all builders, designers, and property owners. Failure to comply can result in penalties, fines, or legal action. Fifthly, a fifth misconception is that meter height regulations are overly restrictive or burdensome. While meter height regulations may impose certain constraints on design and construction, they are designed to protect occupants and ensure the long-term durability and safety of structures. The benefits of compliance outweigh any perceived burdens. Sixthly, some assume that meter height regulations are solely the responsibility of the builder or contractor. In reality, property owners also have a responsibility to ensure that their properties comply with all applicable codes and regulations. Property owners should work closely with builders and designers to ensure compliance. Seventhly, another misconception is that meter height regulations are too complex or difficult to understand. While building codes can be complex, resources are available to help builders, designers, and property owners navigate the requirements. Local building departments, professional consultants, and online resources can provide guidance and support. Eighthly, some believe that meter height regulations are unnecessary or outdated. In reality, meter height regulations are constantly evolving to reflect new technologies, construction practices, and safety standards. These regulations are essential for ensuring the ongoing safety and functionality of outdoor spaces. Ninthly, it is often thought that meter height regulations are uniform across different regions. However, this is not the case, as local climate conditions, seismic activity, and other factors can influence the specific requirements in different areas. Lastly, some assume that if a previous structure was built without adhering to meter height regulations, the new structure can follow the same non-compliant pattern. This is incorrect. New construction must always adhere to current building codes, regardless of past practices. In summary, common misconceptions about meter height regulations in outdoor dwelling units include the belief that they are the same for all spaces, only apply to new construction, are solely about aesthetics, are optional, are overly restrictive, are solely the responsibility of builders, are too complex to understand, are unnecessary, are uniform across regions, or that past non-compliance allows for future non-compliance. It is important to clarify these misconceptions and provide accurate information to ensure compliance and promote safety in outdoor spaces. Always consult local building codes and seek professional guidance when necessary.